So my name is Chrissy. I have been the client advocate at Sumter Pregnancy Center for about 5 years now. I have one teenage, one almost teenage boys. They keep me busy. They're definitely one of my greatest accomplishments in my life. But yeah, so the client advocate position at Sumter Pregnancy Center I felt like it's been my calling, and so I'm very happy to be there.
When we had Benjamin, uh, I found that it changed me in the way that I approached ministry. I saw things differently, whatever, different context. Whenever I was talking to parents at Sumter United Ministries, I started to understand their scenario a little bit more, something like that. How has the recent changes in your life in the past year changed maybe how you do your job or relate to the clients that you see?
So, yes, in the last year, I've had a lot of changes. One major change is I am separated after 20 years of marriage. So, definitely not something I wanted to happen. But as far as things that I dealt with in my childhood, um, this major change, everything that I've gone through and tried to deal with, I've been able to better understand other people's life situations at work. And it's interesting because when we have an unplanned pregnancy come in, that's the tip of the iceberg as far as what's going on in their lives. So we don't have that in common, but there's so much else going on with them that I've been able to relate to.
I think I'm sure there are people out there that have the notion that if you come to God and you give him your life, that it's just, I say all the time, big bowl of cherries, everything goes your way, God's favor is so great, that you have no trouble in your life.
Yes.
But it's quick and easy to see how that would spoil you to a degree that you would not be able to relate to people at all. I think all of us have at times unexpected changes or challenges that come our way. Um, how have you seen that in your life to be a beneficial thing?
Well, I would prefer to know that life is not a bowl of cherries.
Mm-hmm.
And, half of, well, most, if not all of me getting through it is my faith and belief in God and leaning on Jesus and just trying to, I mean, I have not been perfect. I know my role in the marriage issues and things like that. And I did pray, my way through it. And sometimes things just still don't work out. But with that said, I know God still got me. And that's the utmost important thing to remember. If you look through the Bible, who in there was perfect, except Jesus. So we we are all we make mistakes. One of my biggest prayers, throughout all of this was like, okay, dear God, I know I've not been doing things properly all the time, the way that you would want me to, but I need you right now. And I definitely try to bring that into my discussions with my clients too. It's like, okay, you've made a mistake. Join the club. All of us have. But when you find out how to just lean on God and trust Him and give it to Him and say, you might do this in a way that I wouldn't have done it, but we all know He knows best. And so we've just got to trust Him. And that's been keeping me hanging on.
Sure. I think whenever we get life is taking us in a different direction, we may have some idea of how life is going to change. What would you say have been unforeseen challenges in this transition in your life? Are there any?
Oh yeah, there's been a lot. It's hard after 20 years, being responsible for your own finances and um, schedule just completely shifted, trying to deal with other relationships, such as his family and things like that. Um, I think, and I don't know why I thought this was going to work, but I thought, maybe after a couple months, I'll be settled in and everything will be fine. And it's like, I'll feel okay for a little bit. And then I start to realize that I'm still adjusting. And I really don't know how long this adjustment is going to last.
Mhm.
Sometimes everything feels completely out of whack. Other times it's okay. But for some reason, that turns out to be my biggest shock because I'm a fixer. And I'm like, I'll get everything in order and it'll be fine.
Mhm.
Jokes on me.
Tell us a little bit about your heart for the ministry you do at Sumter Pregnancy Center, um, where you find yourself now in the middle of doing ministry there. Share with our church a little bit about that.
um, Again, I am always surprised that I'm working there. I feel successful there. Um, Even though I have never had an unplanned pregnancy.
Mhm.
Both of mine were planned and wanted, and it was never a problem, but I'm able to connect with them, and it helps me too. We have a saying there like, what fills your bucket? Taking care of these women and trying to help them unravel their lives and try to find out what has gone wrong and help them reach the best solution for their current situations. That's really what I mean. I a lot of me lives for that.
Mhm.
If I'm not there, being helpful or productive or doing work for God, you know, I I don't do as well. So really, in a way, taking care of my clients and when they tell me, how grateful they are for us and some of them even so much they don't know what they would have done without us. It's everything that I need sometimes. It's really good stuff. It's not always happy moments, but when people feel loved when they leave, that's everything.
Whether it's your boys or your clients or even a friend, how does helping someone else, serving someone else, help you with whatever you may be dealing with on the inside?
That's a good question because that does actually help me cope.
Mhm.
I learn things from them too.
Mhm.
When we're sitting back in the counseling room, it's peer counseling. And so it's more like a friend, big sister, or unfortunately, sometimes mother figure.
Mhm.
um, they, um, they help me work out things that I'm dealing with as in, yeah, I've heard that before. I'm kind of going through it. I kind of understand that. And as I'm talking with them, we kind of have a back and forth exchange as far as we both feel supported. There was one time I had a domestic abuse um, recovery. She wasn't with them anymore, but she had a severe history of domestic abuse. And so I told her a little bit about my situation, and it was never abuse on physical abuse on my part or anything like that. And I was like, well, I understand this and that, but my situation wasn't as bad as yours. And she was like, no, 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 no. You know, it's as bad. And I don't ever want to compare situations. And I was trying to tell her that I sort of understood, but I couldn't. And she's the one that comes to me saying, no, your situation is just as relevant, to as mine is. And so she taught me a lesson, at that moment. And I love connecting with them, but it really does help me sort out my own emotions. And when I feel like I've helped someone, the day can't be, there's no way I wasted the day. So no matter what else happens, there is some good that comes out of it.
One of my favorite passages to read is Matthew chapter 6. And when Jesus goes into the talk about God caring for the sparrows and, all of these things. And he says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough anxiety for itself, just, dealing with the day in front of you. I think the biggest changes in my life, the uncertainty of the future and that sort of thing is what, will drive you crazy. Putting one foot in front of the other, dealing with what's in front of you for the day. is really all we can control and put our focus on. How has that been true for you?
It's also interesting you say that because the one thing I do like about Sumter Pregnancy Center, it is completely unpredictable. So actually, I don't usually have anxiety going into the day because you literally don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I almost work better that way. Like, hey, present me the problem, and all right, I'm here to fix it. Um, so it does make it easier in that way. There is not too much worry about tomorrow, the next day, or whatever. And with my coworkers being so supportive, it's a predictable environment, which I know I'm not gonna walk into something that is going to be heavy and negative. Kristen, the director, she makes sure we are, you know, emotionally and mentally taken care of often. She will plan lunches for us. We'll have prayer sessions. There is a little bit of goofing off throughout the day. We have to cope with humor because otherwise it could get too heavy. Um, so yeah, I and a lot of times my advice to our clients is, hey, sometimes you got to give it to God. If you have to literally make the motion, like, please take it because right now I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if that's how you have to do it, do it. But he's got you, and whatever comes tomorrow, we'll just deal with it when it comes tomorrow.
One of the significant areas of focus for me lately has been in the last hours of Jesus' life, from the point that he has the Last Supper, communion with his disciples, to his arrest, all of those things, that he practically experiences every negative experience that we could possibly come up with, from abandonment, betrayal, being wronged by the government, being wronged by the religious structure, torture, being mocked by strangers, injustice, you name it. Looking at my own life, when I identify and look to what he experienced, I find that a God that experienced those things to be incredibly encouraging and uplifting to me, that he understands. When you think about that and your faith in Christ and what you talked about, what does that mean to you?
Well, I actually had a weak moment a few months back, and my, I don't know, subconscious, not really thinking brain comes out, and I was frustrated with my life, and couldn't really make decisions. Sometimes it just gets really hard, and somewhere in the back of my brain, it was like, well, God just doesn't get it, doesn't get you, and I was like, what? I was like, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, why would you even think that? I said, first of all, he created you. Second of all, yeah, Jesus was here on this earth with his own 2 feet on the ground. He understands. He's been there. And I said, your whole, like how I do everything at work, I model it by what I think he would do or say. And it just like, I upset myself in thinking that he didn't understand. I was like, that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever thought in my life. But when you put it like you did, it's he knows hurt, and even himself, you sense, we had to have disappointment there, with being betrayed and abandoned and things like that. And it's like, to even fathom that he doesn't get what's going on with me is by far, like I said, the least smart thing I've ever thought in my life. Comes straight from frustration, but that gives me peace in remembering he has experienced all of this.
Mm-hmm. Our obsession with control, managing life, the circumstances, whatever. We have big life events, changes everything. Was that ever a struggle for you? Are you one of these people who just really like control? And if so, what has the last few months taught you?
I'm actually not that big of a control freak. I'm pretty laid back. I can usually go with the flow. Um, I do have my little quirks, like, hey, if things start feeling out of order, I'm gonna go clean something. Um, the one thing that I have been able to do, I think, with you know, um, a lot of confidence is give it to God. It's gotten me through so much more because I actually am not that good at coping with things.
Mhm.
So it's like the one thing that's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. And I don't even know how some people make it through life without having that particular guarantee because I need it.
Yeah.
I need to know that God is ultimately in control, and I don't have to be in control of everything because there is no way I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that it's major for me.
Think about this for a second and you can give me your answer. This series is entitled Living With. Um, if you had to sum it up in a word, this change or uncertainty or you know confidence, purpose, whatever it is, I'm going to ask you, and why don't you just give me the first thing that comes to your heart, your mind?
Well, unfortunately, the first thing that comes to mind was disappointment.
Okay. Disappointment.
This is, if I had a vision for my future, this wasn't it.
Hmm. And I think that's true. I think about this a lot because specifically with marriage, separation, divorce, nobody on that day that they begin their journey together feels that way.
Yeah.
And they don't foresee it. And yet statistics alone would show you, a huge part of our culture is experiencing that. So that's the part that always resonates with me. Just no one ever sees life going in that direction in that particular circumstance. But there's a lot of things in life, and sometimes can be medical conditions, whatever it may be. Um, you get disappointed because you maybe have some expectations of life and life doesn't deliver in that way.
Yeah.
People can disappoint you, whatever it may be. But I think that I think that resonates with a lot of people who would say, "Yes, I know what disappointment feels like."
I would hope so. A lot of my clients, when I talk to them, they get upset. Oh, I'm pregnant before I'm married. My family's gonna be so disappointed. Um, and advice that I should be giving myself sometimes. I'm like, life doesn't always happen in the order that we think it should or society thinks it should. And like you said, you don't get married planning on getting divorced. That's not a thing. And my parents are divorced, and I was always like, it's not going to happen. And as a fixer, I was just like, I can fix anything. Anything that comes along, I can fix it. It turns out I couldn't fix it. I really felt like I put a whole lot into it and didn't get the results that I thought maybe I should have gotten.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where the disappointment comes in. And, my clients have that same feeling when they're sitting there. Sometimes they feel like they're swimming against the current.
Yeah.
And life just is so disappointing sometimes and doesn't go the way we planned.
Me getting married at 35 and thinking about how much I wanted a family of my own and how much I prayed about it, it was bitterly disappointing to me. And I didn't get why God wasn't opening that door, making that happen. Getting into my early 30s, it was especially there's a wall there. I was like, I don't get this. I was a little bitter about it.
Yeah.
Um, it's amazing how life can change sometimes, but that, you know, we might have perceptions of the way life should be, and then many times it's not going to present itself that way. Uh, Chris, as we're wrapping up here, for someone watching out here in the church, watching this video, if they're going through a major curve in their life, challenge, unexpected circumstance, what would you say to them? Speak directly to them. What would you say to them in this moment?
I would definitely say, look, there can be a lot of societal pressure out there, a lot of expectations, a lot of, groups, even in church. You feel like you have to be this certain person, or you feel like you have to be up to a certain standard. When we all know deep down, we're not perfect. No matter what it is, we present to the outside world. And so give yourself some grace. That's what I tell a lot of my clients. Like, look, and a lot of times they'll tell me stories about how they take care of so and so, they take care of their kids. They're always on the back burner. They're not giving themselves patience. They're not giving themselves love. They're not giving themselves grace. It's one thing to know you're forgiven, and it's another to actually like feel that.
Yeah.
So I always say, work on that. Try to remember that. Don't beat yourself up. And the more we take care of ourselves in that aspect, the better off we will be for others. So, if I let all of this get to me when I walked into work, I would not be good for anybody else.
Mhm.
I'm not going to lie. When I decided this separation was going to happen, I worried. I worried what everyone was going to think of me. I worried what, they were scenarios they were going to come up with as to why, and if I was even capable of doing my job anymore. And so I finally, was like, let it go.
Mhm.
God put you here. Let him.
Mhm.
Just let him.
Yeah.